Mark had barely stepped out the door when Ryan arrived, his presence unexpected yet oddly well-timed. He leaned against the doorway with his usual easy charm, flashing a grin. "Mark told me to drop by," he said casually. She hesitated, her mind replaying the last conversation with her husband. Mark hadn't mentioned Ryan coming over. Still, it wasn't unusual for them to make last-minute plans. She stepped aside, letting him in. Dinner was still warm on the table, the aroma of home-cooked meals filling the air. Ryan glanced at the plates and smirked. "Looks like I crashed date night," he joked, sitting down without waiting for an invitation. She laughed lightly, unsure why his presence suddenly made her self-conscious. Mark and Ryan had been best friends for years, and she had always been comfortable around him. But tonight, something felt different. They ate, their conversation flowing effortlessly. He complimented her cooking, his words lingering longer than usual. She noticed things about him she never had before, the way his eyes held her gaze a second too long, the way his voice dipped lower when he spoke to her. The room felt smaller, warmer. She reached for the wine, needing something to settle the strange energy building between them. Ryan accepted a glass, his fingers brushing hers for the briefest moment. The touch sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. "You know," he said, swirling the wine in his glass, "Mark's lucky. Not every man has a wife who still puts in this kind of effort." His words caught her off guard. Was it a compliment? Or something more? She forced a smile. "Well, he works hard. I just want to make home feel welcoming." Ryan leaned back, studying her. "And do you?" The question felt heavier than it should have. She hesitated before answering, and in that pause, something shifted. He smiled, sensing the change. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he said, voice softer now. "Just sometimes, people don't realize they deserve more until someone points it out." Her breath hitched, heart pounding against her ribs. This was dangerous. She stood abruptly, collecting the plates. "You want coffee?" Ryan watched her, an unreadable expression crossing his face. "Sure," he said after a beat, his voice laced with something unspoken. As she moved toward the kitchen, she caught her reflection in the window. Her cheeks were flushed. Her hands trembled slightly. She told herself it was nothing. Just an ordinary evening. Just friendly conversation. But deep down, she knew something had already changed. The coffee sat untouched between them, cooling with time. Ryan's eyes lingered on her longer than necessary, his expression unreadable. "You seem different tonight," he said, his voice quieter now, almost thoughtful. She forced a small laugh, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Different how?" He tilted his head slightly. "I don't know, distracted. Or maybe just tired of pretending everything is perfect." Her stomach tightened. He had no right to say that, no right to assume. But somehow, it felt like he had peeled back a layer she kept hidden, even from herself. "I'm fine," she said, her voice lacking conviction. Ryan studied her, the flickering candlelight casting shadows across his face. "You don't have to be," he murmured. The room felt too quiet, too intimate. A faint clap of thunder rumbled outside, the rain tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. He leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees. "You ever feel like you're just existing? Going through the motions, but never really being seen?" Her breath caught. She shouldn't relate. She shouldn't feel like he had just cracked open a door she had been keeping shut for too long. "I don't know what you mean," she lied. Ryan gave a knowing smile, as if he could hear the words she didn't say. "It's easy to pretend," he said. "Harder to admit when something feels off." A silence stretched between them, charged and unspoken. She should tell him to leave. Should remind him that whatever thoughts were creeping into their heads had no place here. But she didn't move. Instead, she let herself notice the way his fingers traced the rim of his cup, slow and deliberate. The way his breathing had subtly changed, deeper now, almost measured. "It's getting late," she finally said, her voice softer than she intended. Ryan didn't respond right away. Then, with a slight nod, he stood. She followed him to the door, her pulse quickening as he turned back. For a moment, he just looked at her, really looked at her like no one had in a long time. Then, in a voice just above a whisper, he said, "You deserve to be happy." A shiver ran down her spine. Before she could say anything, he stepped outside, the rain swallowing him into the night. She closed the door, exhaling sharply. Her heart was still pounding, not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. Sleep didn't come easily. Her mind replayed the evening in fragments, his voice, his eyes, the weight of unspoken words lingering between them. She told herself it was nothing, just a passing moment fueled by wine and loneliness. But deep down, she knew better. The next morning, she moved through the house as if on autopilot, but everything felt different. The walls, the furniture, even the air, it all carried a weight she couldn't shake. She told herself she would forget, that life would fall back into its usual rhythm. Then her phone buzzed. "Ryan, last night it meant something, didn't it?" Her breath hitched. She stared at the message, heart pounding. 1,000 responses ran through her mind, but none felt right. Ignoring it was safest. Instead, she set her phone aside, convincing herself it was just a fleeting moment for him too. But the universe had other plans. That evening, Mark mentioned Ryan in passing, his voice light, unaware. He said he stopped by. "Thanks for keeping him company." Her fingers tightened around her glass. "Yeah, it was nice catching up." Mark chuckled. "He's a good guy. Always got my back." A sharp pang of guilt shot through her. Ryan had always been loyal to Mark, to their friendship. But last night had blurred the lines in ways she never imagined. She tried to shake it off, but it followed her. Even as days passed, the weight of that night didn't fade. It clung to her in quiet moments, creeping in like an unwelcome thought she couldn't silence. Then it happened again. Ryan showed up unexpectedly, this time under the pretense of borrowing something from Mark. But she knew better. The way his gaze found hers, the hesitation before he spoke, it was deliberate. Mark was upstairs, unaware. Ryan leaned against the counter, fingers drumming lightly on the surface. "You never replied to my message." Her pulse quickened. Because there was nothing to say. His lips curved into a slight smirk. "Is that the truth, or what you think you should say?" She exhaled sharply, forcing herself to stay composed. "This isn't a game, Ryan." "I know," he said, voice softer now. "That's why it's hard to ignore." Her chest tightened. She should end this, whatever it was. Draw a firm line. But the way he looked at her, as if he could see every hidden part of her, made her feel something she hadn't in years. The sound of Mark's footsteps on the stairs shattered the moment. Ryan took a step back, slipping his hands into his pockets. "See you around," he said casually, but his eyes said something else. As he walked out, she realized she had already crossed a line. Maybe not physically, but in every other way that mattered. She told herself it was over, that whatever had been lingering between them would fade with time. But the more she tried to push it away, the stronger it clung to her. Ryan didn't text again. He didn't show up unannounced. He gave her exactly what she should have wanted: distance. And yet, it felt like a punishment. Mark remained oblivious, moving through their life as if nothing had changed. Maybe for him, nothing had. He kissed her goodbye in the mornings, asked about her day in the evenings, told her he loved her before bed. It was everything she once craved. But now, it felt like a routine. Familiar, safe, predictable. She hated herself for comparing. For noticing that when Mark spoke to her, his attention was divided. That he never held her gaze the way Ryan did. That his words, though kind, lacked the depth of someone truly seeing her. One evening, as she sat across from Mark at dinner, her phone buzzed. "Ryan, I miss talking to you." Her stomach clenched. Mark didn't notice. He was too busy scrolling through emails, barely looking up as he spoke. She locked her phone, forcing herself to focus on the man in front of her. The man she had promised forever to. The man who trusted her completely. The weight of it all crashed over her like a wave. This wasn't just a mistake she could undo. It was a choice. And she had already made it, whether she wanted to admit it or not. Later that night, As Mark slept beside her, she stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. She could still feel Ryan's presence in the silence, still hear the words he hadn't spoken out loud. She reached for her phone, fingers hovering over the screen. One message. That's all it would take.
But then she thought about Mark.
About the man who had always been there, even if he wasn't perfect. About the life they had built together. With a deep breath, she deleted Ryan's message. Then, without hesitation, she deleted his number too. It wasn't closure. It wasn't peace. But it was a choice. And tonight, for the first time in weeks, she had made the right one.